like looking at the slides on my iPad too, so I remember what the next slide is. So if you see that, just I am paying attention. I'm just like speaking from notes too. Okay, hello everyone. I'm about to present. Okay, do I have the screen share? Let's see, desktop share. Yes, cool. Okay. Okay, can you guys see everything? Is it good? Oh no, my mouse has disappeared. Okay, anyways, hello, my name is Radia Rahman. I am an illustrator. I'm from Queens. I'm a freelance illustrator, and I graduated last year in the middle of the pandemic. I have my BFA in illustration, and as Yuko and Marcus, see this? Yesterday I was rehearsing to Julian, and I kept getting tongue-tied. So here we are. I was in Yuko and Marcus's class last year for their portfolio class. So I am one of their former students. They are my former professors, and I use the she, they pronouns. That's all good. That is me. This is me. Okay. If I click, will it change? Yes, okay, cool. So a little bit about myself. I am a first generation Bengali American. I was born and raised in New York City, so this is my home, this is all I know. And a lot of my work has to do with tying the duality of those two cultures together. I am part of the alphabet mafia. When I heard this term, I started like laughing so hard because like it was just a code word for LGBTQ. I am queer, to be precise. Tomorrow I'm actually turning 23, so I'm 22 right now, but that is my age. And some of the things that I enjoy are plants, some good old coffee, and cats. So let's see. This is what I probably look like to you, May 2020, graduating art school, SVA, and then suddenly here we are now, April 2021, almost a year later, and I am now a full-time artist. And that sounds really intimidating, and this is just the illusion of what, and it's like the easier version of taking everything into perspective. But the reality is this timeline. However, don't let that overwhelm you, because this whole slideshow presentation and me speaking today is going to explain everything that I've done from then until now. So it seems bizarre how quickly the progress has come to, and also kind of amazing, honestly, because if you were to tell me last year all of these things would happen and I would be a full-time artist by now, I would probably freak out and not believe you. But here I am today. So I thought I would start off by sharing a little bit of the work that I've made at SVA, so you have a better taste and flavor of what I do and how that art has just changed. Mainly, I will be talking about, post-grad life and how I have branded myself and kind of harnessing technology, because technology has definitely shifted the way traditional illustrators are making money, because we have technology and social media as a tool to advertise ourselves and market ourselves. So we should take advantage of that. And I think I've somehow managed to do that, but let's start with me entering school. So this was freshman year of college at SVA, foundation class, very boring. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, trying to incorporate bits of myself, what was important to me. Lots of oil painting, I'm not a fan. And then trying to incorporate my culture, my family is Muslim. I'm not particularly religious, but having those aspects still live with me today, at the same time, experimenting and exploring all of my possibilities and just figuring out like what the hell like I was up to and what I wanted to do. This is my second year at SVA, and as you can see, there is a dramatic change. So you can start to see the color palettes develop. I am really compelled towards pink and blues and fluorescent colors. You can see my style is like sort of jumping around the place. And this, all that you see on the screen right now, is traditional work. So I would try to figure out exactly like what medium I wanted to harness. So those are two oil paintings on the top, some watercolor in the corner. Those are lino cut books. I made a book. I printed. Yes, printmaking. Yes. I printed my own like lino cut book, and I dabbled in a bit of risograph, and I also took some cartooning classes. So I took how to storyboard comics because I also enjoy like writing and making comics. So there was a bit of that. And the second year is truly when I felt like I was able to like take a grip at the things that I wanted to do and the artwork that I wanted to produce. However, as you can see, I was struggling with style and finding my voice. Here is work from Marcus's second year drawing class. So he let me work digitally. And this is when I start. Oh, is nudity allowed? Well, it doesn't matter anyways. We're seeing it on the screen. Whatever. It's art school. So this is the Marcus has been amazing when it came to just like opening my brain as to what I wanted to make and why. You know, like he was asking all of the right questions, and he was also putting me down. He was just like, no, you got to redo this, or like, no, just scrap that. And he was right. And, you know, taking that advice and putting it into practice and seeing what worked, what didn't. And you can see the vast diversity in the like art style, and clearly nothing is like staying in the same realm, but there were some similar aspects I was bringing up. So Marcus was telling me how important it was for him to be someone who was gay, and then for me to be someone who was queer, and you know, like having an admiration towards women and femininity, and also taking into account mental health. So the reason that you saw traditional pieces and now digital pieces is because this is when I also started therapy. So the medication that I had completely messed me up, and my hands kept shaking. So obviously if I was painting, I would literally have a whole stroke go across the page, or my pen would fly out of my hand. So I thought, how do I have more control if I am able to undo things and like render them, hence digital. But as you can see, I'm still learning, you know, like this whole entire process, I'm still learning. And even where I am right now, I am still learning. So you can see the aspects of my culture with like the Hindu goddess Kali, and then yoga and meditation, and aspects of mental health where, you know, like taking medication is sort of just like getting jolted out of bed. And I haven't really had the best relationship with food. So like what it's like to have an eating disorder, and just like a nicotine addiction, but also like loving women and like things that relate to like self-harm and places that I'm trying to grow out of essentially. And basically making those assignments into works of art that are a reflection of me. This is now my third year. So this is when I'm dabbling in silkscreen, you know, like allowing those colors and the vibrancy of my work to exist. And there's more culture added in there, more things that I like, a little bit of fan art, a little bit of fun. This was the year for the illustration students. This was our junior project. So that sucked up a lot of my time. And I desperately wanted to make work that was kind of in the fun zone of the second year at SVA. And so you can see like a little bit of fan art of like Tyler the Creator, little Spider-Verse, spider Sona thing going on there. And in the corner, this imagery called Rare and Lovely, and it was like a play on this skin lightening cream, and used in a lot of South Asian like culture that lightens your skin so you're fair, because there's a huge issue with colorism. But long story short, it was basically to counter the beauty standards that is like you don't have to be fair to be beautiful, or you don't have to be lighter skinned to be accepted and to like thrive, or like, you know, just it was a whole misogynistic thing of like telling women what to do. And some of you might have seen the cat print in the middle, or the little catch these feral hands print, which was printed on a shirt later. And I think the next image that I have is my entire junior project. So this was a very like turning point for me, because when you have strong beliefs and when you want to prove things to people, you kind of have to fight them. And so for our junior year, the theme for our thesis junior project was location as character, and I decided to illustrate the novel Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami, which is a Japanese novel made by a Japanese author set in Japan. And while I was reading that book, something sparked in me. Like the main character kind of gave a reflection of me, like going through that hollow feeling and like hooking up with people or whatever. And just like a lot of those psychological aspects reminded me a lot of the like movies from Bangladesh as well, which is where my parents are from, and like the culture that I was raised with. And I was like, why not change the location to something that brings and calls me to familiarity? And, you know, pitching this to Thomas Woodruff was a little bit difficult, because I don't think he understood my vision, and I don't think I was doing a good job of explaining my vision to him, and that was a learning process. And essentially, I was like, "Hey, the mannerisms are similar. You know, I'm not Japanese, so I'd rather share like a little bit of like where I'm from. Like, if you're having someone illustrate something, your best intention is to grab the person that is most familiar with it. So I felt like I don't see enough of representation when it comes to my background. So I ended up making these images. He wasn't too happy with the first initial like approval of the project, but these were the images. He said, "You did it," and I proved a point. I proved a point and I got into the show, and that did it for me. I had to put up a fight and put up a challenge, and in the end I made it happen. I delivered. Um, this is when we get into my fourth year, and this is when I am in Marcus and Yuko's uh, portfolio class. I'm also doing some pattern work. I'm also in a fiber arts class. Lots of exploration. So this year I was like building exactly what my voice was going to be, the work that I wanted to do, exactly what work I was looking for as well. So you can see that there's a lot of like experimental stuff and works in progress that I kind of abandoned, but what I didn't abandon ended up being pretty nice. Um, so here are like the finished final pieces that I had. You can see some gouache paintings, more silkscreen, pattern work, children's book illustrations, and everything is starting to piece together. You can put things side by side and it looks like it belongs in the same world, which is exactly what I was hoping to do for those past 3 years. And this was like just as we were starting 2020, like this final semester of college, and that's when the pandemic hit. Okay, so I found that I had more time, so I was able to be more creative. So here are some other pieces, little spot illustrations of my cat, the little house party on the bottom of the first illustration I did for the portfolio class, which it's actually like massive, like bigger than my head. And then on the side, this was an advertising poster for one of the clubs at SVA for a art fair, and it ended up getting canceled. But I really enjoyed it, and I felt like I was able to figure out how to utilize spaces, which I used to suck at. But um, I also did a comic. It was literally a spontaneous choice, and it was basically about having glasses and getting laser eye surgery, and it was a 24 panel comic. And not only did I get published in the illustration book, the graduating book, I also got published in the cartooning graduate book, which was very cool. These three pieces I will always refer to because it's always the work that I never intended to make that brings out the like good brain juices. So essentially, this project, this trilogy, triptych, whatever you want to call it, had to delve into exactly like what I was trying to portray. I am a brown woman. I'm Bengali. I didn't know anyone else who was like me when I went to school. So it felt like the situation I was facing was very isolated, and the experiences that I had were not represented in artwork. And as someone who has been raised here in America, in New York City in particular, I felt like New York had its own culture, and then I had my own culture at home, and finding the middle ground between those two. So as you can see, like traditional clothing with street fashion, streetwear, and like things like henna on the hands and feeling okay with it, and basically taking pride in exactly where I came from and putting it into my artwork. This is my website. Okay, when I graduated, I had to shell out some money and pay for a website. This is something you should have. It is my professional landing page where people can find my best bodies of work. Okay, you can take a look at the stuff that I've done, who I am, clients that I've worked with, interviews that I've had, exhibitions, uh, features, etc. It's also where I have my online shop, which I'll get to later on throughout the slides. Um, so after I graduated in this panini, okay, I was wondering what the hell I was gonna do, you know, because I just had this expensive piece of paper that is my diploma, and suddenly being at home. And, I was essentially catapulted into the work from home setting and being confused because now it felt like there was this layer of pressure to, you know, email 500 art directors and beg people to accept my work and hire me. Also, I do not come from any generational wealth. I am not a trust fund baby. My parents are immigrants, okay? I went entirely on loans when it came to college. So I have like $100,000 in loans, and suddenly that dropped on my head. But as you know, we are all in forbearance, the people who have graduated. Um, but that was something terrifying. I was like, how the hell am I going to pay this off too? Like, I need to start looking for work. And not only that, but in June of last year, I got laid off from my part time job. So it was like stressor after stressor. So first you have the pandemic. Then you have like me getting laid off, and then this was also around the same time that the Black Lives Matter movement gained momentum again, and that brings up a lot of grief for BIPOC communities and marginalized communities. And it's really difficult to work when it feels like the world is quite literally on fire, and not knowing if I should be taking a break, but at the same time struggling to essentially survive. And this is when I was just like, I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know where to go. I just felt incredibly lost. However, thankfully, Yuko and Marcus are constantly looking out for me, and they understand exactly how dedicated and hardworking I am, and my desire to do better. And Yuko reached out to me with her agent. This is also Marcus's agent. His name is Aaron, and I was offered a full time position as a junior agent, which sounds great because you're like, wow, you got laid off and now you just got offered a job. Amazing, like things will work out in your favor. And it was a salary. It wasn't even just like part time. It was a whole salary. So I was thinking, okay, I could pay off my loans in a couple of years just doing this. However, I realized that uh, this is a full-time position in a non-creative space. It's more like the business end. So suddenly I had to weigh whether or not I wanted to take the money working, or if I was going to decline it and allow space for my creative freedom, because when I got laid off, I realized that I had a bunch of things that I could, basically a bunch of products I had left over for an online shop, and I was in the middle of working on that. So suddenly I was feeling as though I needed to detach myself from all the creative work that I was doing. And because this was a very much on call full time position, I knew that I wouldn't really have the time, the space, or the energy to take something on, and such a huge responsibility as well, because I wasn't even like exploring my options at the moment. It's kind of like just landed on me. And the thing is, I declined. I turned down a full-time job, and my Asian parents were like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this? You just turned down money. You just said no." And the thing is, like, I learned to believe in myself because of just my general work ethic. And um funny enough, when you are saying no to something, you definitely want to keep in contact with people. This is the whole thing of like, make friends, don't just network. And I told Aaron, I was like, hey, this is my situation right now, but let's talk again. If you have anything come up, if you want to work together in the future. Lo and behold, this man comes back and he's just like, hey, I have a project with Skull Candy. Do you want to take it? And I was like, yes. Yes, I am taking the project. Here is the project. I signed an NDA. You guys can see this. I got permission. And I worked for 2 months on this over the summer. And it was great. It's like I turned down the thing that I didn't want, and suddenly the thing that I did want just like zoomed and like entered my life. And I don't know if it's like luck or fate or whatever it is, but this just happened, okay? And this was amazing. I couldn't talk about it while it was in the work. So when I did tell my friends when it launched, they were like, "Oh my god!" And while I was working on that, I opened my online store, and these were some of the things that I literally just had on hand from when I was at school. So I kept putting off my online shop because I was like, oh, it's okay. Like I can go to local art fairs and whatnot. And like these were just a small selection of things that I had at the time. And I remember getting like 50 sales, and I'm like, oh my God, yes, I can pay my student loans. And the whole reason that I opened this up is because I didn't have my job anymore. I wanted to open up another avenue where it could be supplemental income. Um, and that was the store launch. I love doing like little infographics for my social media. But at the same time, I was entering like contests and submissions, and I had filmed my sketchbook because I finished one of my sketchbooks in the middle of the pandemic, and I uploaded this to YouTube, and suddenly, like, it just blew up. And I don't know how or why, but like I had no intention of ever starting a YouTube channel or like uploading anything, sharing my work. I enjoy filming myself doing stuff, not like specifically me, but like filming the process of doing things and having all this footage. And I never really knew what to do with it. So when I uploaded the sketchbook tour, which was for a contest, um, it got like over 100,000 views. And I was a little confused, but that is what caused people to suddenly pour into like my Instagram. People were asking like more things from my shop, and like this sudden surge of followers just like rained out of nowhere. And people wanted more, and I wanted to do more. And so I was like, okay, cool. Um, and then in October, this is when the final Skull Candy project launched, and I was able to actually talk about it in a video of mine. And as you can see, Rico Nasty and Rina Sawayama were part of it too, and I was a little bit starstruck. But basically, I started realizing that there were some connections when it came to my work, like the cats, the colors, and I was like, huh, like like I'm starting to draw a couple lines together and it feels more like conclusive. Um, and now I will get a little bit into branding. And I feel like branding is very much identity. And here I have a very little, like, very cute, like, graphic of art and artist. And I feel like those two things are no longer becoming separated. You know, I think people are holding themselves more responsible and accountable, either for good reasons or bad reasons. Um, and those two are somehow intertwined. And I like to think of a bridge between it, where suddenly we are allowing that bridge to go back and forth across it, and learning about ourselves and learning about our art. And by making, I am learning. And this is how my brain works. You know, I take my feelings, my identity, my goals, fears, aspirations, experiences in my brain, does the brain juice thing, and it translates into artwork. And, you know, I don't think, for some people that could be the case, but for me, it's that. And that's the material I have. That is my branding. You know, I'm a queer South Asian woman of color. I like cats and cute things. I am exploring this area of femininity. I am someone who is vegan and eco-conscious, and then you just like put everything in a little like rice cooker, and it comes out, and that's my brand. Um, and the thing is, page turn, uh, you know, I didn't realize that I was suddenly cultivating an audience. So that is a little bit nerve-wracking. But the thing is that I am going to make work regardless. I am going to make work no matter how many followers I have, you know. I'm going to be myself. I'm not going to curate a personality. I'm not going to create a facade for people. What something that I was doing is sharing my passions and insecurity. I was being honest with people. I was being honest with myself, and I was building a connection. People will want to follow you if they feel connected to you, and also working within my comfort zone. Obviously, there were moments where in terms of work, I had to push myself out of my comfort zone to learn. But when it came to presenting myself on the internet, I was working within my comfort zone and what I was comfortable sharing with the rest of the internet. Um, so, algorithm. Girl, I don't know. Um, who? So the thing is, with social media, we have this thing called the algorithm. And I don't know what it is. I don't think anyone does. Maybe people that run social media know what it is. But essentially, when you post something on the internet, you have the algorithm which spits it out somewhere. Either people see it, you get increased engagement, or it doesn't do well, and then it feels like you're just a failure. But do not let the internet tell you you're a failure, okay? Like likes and follows do not determine your worth, okay? Um, Also, social media is constantly changing and it's not in favor of artists. If you think about it, Instagram is literally built for you to post every day because it wasn't meant for artists. It was just meant for like people to take selfies or like post photos of their food or whatever. And do not let branding lose focus of the quality of your work, okay? Because when you make art that's for you, it's more valuable rather than focusing on what you think other people might want to see from you. And that is exactly how you lose originality and you lose flavor in what you love doing. And it's also not the best idea to make work that everyone else is making. I know there are certain trends that can gain follows, like making artwork or doing drawing challenges. All those things are great, but at the end of the day, like, is that what you want to do? Is that what you want to share? Um, and I found that people gravitate towards your work when the work speaks for itself. And I've never paid for advertisements. I think the only advertisements I've had were like through Skull Candy and like the printing company that I had. But like I just sort of post things and just let it exist. And um, that's really what it is. I don't have a posting schedule. I just share work whenever I feel like it. And you know, you can also use hashtags. There's other ways of like sharing your work and making sure it gets out there. And people sharing your work too. So the thing is, I found that when my friends share my work, more people get to see it, and it's amazing. These are certain things that have gone into the little algorithm machine and somehow came out, quote, successful. Like, I have about 25,000 followers on Instagram. That little brush cat holder thing got like 34K likes. I don't know how, I don't know why. The first two videos that I posted on YouTube got just a lot of views. And at the same time, I just do not know how. I don't know how, I don't know why. It just did. um and it's I don't know if it's luck. I don't know if there's like a little robot on the internet picking and choosing favorites, but certain things do well, certain things don't. At the end of the day, don't let the internet tell you you're a failure. This is my YouTube channel. As I've mentioned, I never intended to make a YouTube channel. It just sort of happened. And my YouTube channel essentially serves as a visual diary that I can look back to, you know? Obviously, I am also sharing content and understanding that is publicly available, but I do enjoy sharing my process. I love just like looking back and like editing, not so much editing when it comes to like 10 plus hours of footage, but it's something that I like doing and it's something that I take my time with doing. And I think after the first two videos, I was able to monetize my content. So this served as a passive income, but I never thought about like, okay, I'm just going to upload and upload and upload so I can make more money. But it was more so I wanted to upload because I wanted to build that connection. Like people were able to see the way that I was speaking, my thoughts and feelings. They could see that I'm a person, I'm a human behind the artwork, you know. They can have this experience with me, this journey with me. And essentially I just filmed things that I saw in other people's videos that I enjoyed too, and I was like, okay, cool, like I'm just going to take like what I like, maybe seeing people draw or seeing people like I don't know what they're eating for breakfast, and I'll film bits of that too, what I find interesting essentially. And it's like a little bit of a vicarious friendship, you know. It's also a way of like being accessible because anyone can see this. I'm also sharing like tips and knowledge and advice as someone who's gone to art school, and talking about important issues, like talking about things like racism, xenophobia, and all of that. You know, I don't think it's my responsibility to talk about them, but if I have a platform, I'm going to use it in ways that I could help other people or educate other people, and talking about bits of my culture as well. Also, I don't think I've seen another person like me on the internet. You know, I don't know a lot of Bengali people, unfortunately, that do what I do. So I think it'll be nice when someone can see this and then learn from it, and then maybe their path is just a little bit less hellish than I had. Um, yeah, and I was also able to, where am I? I was also able to start sponsored content this month, which is also another way to make money. But these are some comments. I don't expect you to read all these, but like these are some lovely comments that I've had, and trying to figure out exactly why people kept coming back. So it's not like you just post. It's like there are people that are watching you consistently and want to watch more of you, and that connection that exists. Um, I also like I filmed everything with my phone. You do not need fancy equipment, just use what you have. And it wasn't until later that I like invested in a camera, a tripod, a mic, and like also this recording microphone. That is like the video from my first ever vlog, which is like a video blog. Um, I just didn't expect any of these things to happen. And now let's get into running an online shop. So I also have a small business. It's currently closed right now because I am in the process of moving and just like moving my entire life elsewhere. But you know, when I had like YouTube, Instagram, people were pouring in and asking to buy my stuff. And the thing with an online shop is that I had an existing demand. There were people DMing me and asking, "Hey, are you going to make more of this? Is this for sale? Like, oh, by the way, like if you turn that into a print or a sticker, like I would totally buy it." So it's not like I was just blindly making things or like picking and choosing, but it was because people were asking and what I was comfortable turning into products. And some important things to keep in mind when running an online shop is that, you have to have a budget. So because I work part-time, I had money from myself that I could put towards running a shop, also including getting an e-commerce site, or like I run my shop through Squarespace. Some people use Etsy, but I found that having my website and shop in one place is just more efficient. You can also think about production. Are you going to outsource, or are you going to make things like prints or stickers or whatever at home? Presentation. You're going to be the one to take photos of these things and advertise them to people. Are you posting on social media? Are you just keeping it on your website or shop? How are you presenting it? Like, is the lighting good? Like, are you showing the details of what this particular item is? Are you giving it the proper descriptions? Packaging. You need to send this physical item to someplace, unless it's a digital good. I also have some digital goods on there, but you have to consider that these things cost money. Like there's so many things that no one tells you about running an online shop. And also these things I never learned in art school. So I was basically playing it by ear. Learning about packaging and shipping, sending something from point A to point B, weighing it, realizing how much postage costs. Do you need to buy a label printer? Or are you going to the post office and buying the postage there? Also, customer service. Are you going to be able to offer people refunds, or like if something gets damaged, like do you give them a replacement? And bookkeeping. How much inventory do you have? Are you going to make more of that particular thing? How much money are you spending on supplies? How much are you pricing your stuff? And like what are your profits, taxes, all of that, etc. That's a little image of what one of my shop updates look like. And I actually have a whole video on like how I pack orders. And the thing is, a lot of people gravitated towards my shop because of the branding. Like my cat's name is Queenie. He's a little black cat. He's super adorable. He became like the brand behind my work. And like, although I am sharing my experiences as a brown woman, I'm also like, hey, I should be able to enjoy cute things too. Like I'm allowed to be more than just tokenized for my culture. And so the thing is, because I am someone who is eco-conscious, I want that to translate into my shop as well. So considering things like 100% recycled mailers, things that are compostable, going plastic free, creating as less waste as possible, being mindful of where I'm getting things manufactured, where it's coming from, if these things are environmentally, or like sustainable and ethically made, and learning along the way, which is a lot. Here are some products in my shop after the like first slides that I showed you, and I made fabric out of my own designs and made some masks, more stickers. I'd done like handmade goods, notepads, stationery, keychains, pins. Um, and it was a lot, at the very beginning, I was ordering maybe like 50 to 100 prints or stickers, and then suddenly it became 1,000, and I had to order bulk mailers, and I had to keep proper inventory and track of everything. Otherwise, it would have been really chaotic. And I think I have about 2,000 orders that I've fulfilled thus far. And it was, I think, last December that I had the biggest shop update, and I literally had to buy a wagon because I had packed 700 orders in a week, and I sent it off. And I think I might have made the local USPS upset because I was just like bringing in like 100 orders at a time every single day of the week. But yeah, I started to realize that I was making more money from my online shop than I did working part time, and then also realizing that shop, uh what is the word, profits, the profits that I was making from my shop would fluctuate. So it's not something that was consistent. During the holidays, people are going to want to buy gifts, support small businesses, etc. However, during months like January, February, like people are kind of like they're done. The holiday shopping is over until you know it just comes and goes in waves. And so I was wondering, like how do I make this more consistent, And then suddenly I was like, okay, we got to open up more avenues of income. And I started to take on sponsored content for YouTube, meaning that I could collaborate with brands and, choosing to work with brands that align morally with me and environmentally with me. So suddenly I had this label of content creator, which is a little weird. And sending invoices for basically advertising products and integrating them within my videos, my YouTube channel. And I got to work with companies like Native, Skillshare, Function of Beauty. Yeah, that's it so far. But it added a layer of pressure. But I can answer questions about that later. And then I entered like this group. It's like a talent agency group specifically for marginalized communities in New York called SO, or Scope of Work. And I'm doing an independent study right now where I'm pitching kind of like my own stationery brand. And as you can see, like I've made stationery in the past, but this was essentially like a grant-based independent study of pitching an idea. And if they go forward with it, like having the money to make that idea happen. So I'm currently working on some washi tapes, which is really fun. But that's something that I'm part of, and it's been really helpful. I can also leave links later. So they take people who are like 18 to 24 based in New York City. And I think that's a wonderful avenue. They have like master classes and whatnot. And then in the middle of this, I also had COVID. I'll just leave it at that. But that was a huge hiccup for me in terms of work. And that's why you see one of my previous illustrations featured in Adult Swim, because there was actually another Bengali American woman that reached out to me asking for an illustration. So I was originally supposed to do a fresh illustration for Adult Swim, but because I was just going through it all with COVID, we settled on having like a reuse fee and taking a previous illustration that already exists and having that featured. So I got paid for it, and on top of that, I was featured in a BuzzFeed video, which was pretty lit. One of my followers reached out and was just like, "We want you to do something for us," and I was like, "Cool, am I getting paid?" And they're like, "Yes," and I got to request a secondhand pair of overalls and draw on them. So there's that video. Where are we? Let's see. Oh, and then I started a Patreon. And if you don't know what a Patreon is, it's basically a monthly membership thingy. There's an official Google info thing on the side. But essentially, it's a subscription based platform, non algorithm based. And this is what I have been working on since the beginning of the year to provide a consistent income for me. And the thing with Patreon is that it's an intimate lens into my work. There's already this content that's available for free and public view. However, I wanted to dig deeper with that. And the thing with my Patreon is similar with my shop, where people were asking if I had one. There was an existing demand. There were like people waiting for me to make a Patreon. They're like, "Oh, do you have a Patreon? Like, I would love to like join your Patreon." And I was like, "I don't." And then figuring out exactly what I wanted to offer. So this is my Patreon page. I get that amount a month. It's like it can like fluctuate, but it usually stays around the same. So I'm very, very grateful to have like a consistent income. So I make $3,000, 3,100 a month just from Patreon, and that is after taxes and like Patreon fees. But this is my creator page, and I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to offer on there. So you basically get benefits by pledging into a specific tier. Like I'll show you in a little bit, but I was like, what am I going to post on there? Like I'm posting all of this stuff in multiple areas. What am I going to post on there? So pitching my own suggestions and taking what people want and finding that area in the middle, and that is the good stuff. So here's a glimpse into the content that I have on Patreon. So having things like behind the scenes, early access to my shop and videos, exclusive podcasts and more videos, printable and digital goods, look into my sketchbook from every month. And this is part of my job now. It's a responsibility of mine to fulfill these month to month, and it's non-algorithm based. So when people pledge to you, they are seeing exactly what you are posting. They're not going to miss out. And it's a thing of trust. It's like a symbiosis, a mutual relationship, if you will, because I'm getting financially paid and able to have creative freedom in what I'm doing, and people are able to get more. I'd like to think of it as the cherry on top. And this is content that I would have been making anyway. It's just more of like a documentation and uploading it onto there and having like a little like club thing. And I think some of my patrons are actually in this Zoom call because I've invited them here today. So thank you, patrons, for being here today. And at the beginning, I felt really weird about accepting money, but then I realized, that two-way relationship and understanding that these people were here because they wanted to support me. They wanted me to have the creative freedom and the space and the room to take a break, maybe, or, like maybe we can start something or like learn together. Or they're like my little art director. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I should make this product. Guys, help me. Or like, I don't know what video to make this month. Guys, help me. And I needed to have the financial competence to have the financial confidence to make bigger moves, quite literally and like physically and metaphorically speaking. um, and then I felt less guilty about not having to constantly like email people for work, because suddenly the work was coming towards me. Like people were emailing me being like, can we have you on this project? And I had to actually decline 2 projects this month because I'm so freaking busy all the time. And I'm also moving, so like I can't take on things like midway. Um, Here is some artwork that I have that was like post graduation. I started painting more because I'm no longer taking medication, and the art versus artist thing. It is the month of Ramadan now, so like having a fragment of a piece of me and where I'm from into like work that I'm still doing. um, let's see. I don't know what the next slides are. Okay, this is my desk. So this is the Zoom background that everyone saw during the whole pandemic. But what I work on, this is my studio desk. I have a bedroom that is half living space, half studio. Thankfully, I will be able to move soon. I don't have a spot yet, but this is what it looks like when you walk in through the door. It's a 9 foot by 11 foot room, not that much space. And I have had a good majority, like 90% of my life crammed into here. Like everything that I have, everything that I've produced has come out of here, including packing those 2,000 orders, okay? So you don't have to have a lot to get everything you want done. And now it's a time for me to like now this is a time for me to reflect. Like I'm constantly checking in with myself. I'm asking like, why am I doing this? Like, what does this mean for me? Where am I going? What is shifting? Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Because if you're not asking yourself those questions, you're going to feel lost. You're going to feel those periods of art block, and then you're going to feel imposter syndrome. um, and plan and organize. Take preparations. For me, I work full time, like 30 to 40 hours a week. And the thing is, your productivity does not equal your worth. I found that like I felt productive answering emails, but it was just like admin work and I would rather be drawing and, figuring out the little changes that I need to make into my schedule and planning out exactly what is due when, all of that. And if you're not doing well, you're not going to work. You're not going to be able to work. Health over wealth always. If you're not functioning, if you're literally like on the like you feel like you're dying, okay? You're not going to be able to function properly. You're not going to be able to do the things that you want. I'm also asking myself like, am I putting time into my goals? Like, am I turning my visions into realities? Am I putting in that work? um, making and meeting deadlines. Are you making those deadlines for yourself, or are you like meeting deadlines for other people? Keeping track of projects, keeping track of projects and your invoices. You got to kind of chase after those invoices and make sure you get paid. And also digital organization. A lot of the things that we have right now are digitally filed, stored. If your desktop looks like an absolute nightmare, clean it. Please just like take the weekend to clean it, because you will thank yourself on a year-to-year basis, especially when you're also doing taxes. Yeah, just make life a little bit easier for yourself. And finally, listen to your curiosities. Like if I didn't listen to myself, I think like I don't think I would have been here today. If I just listened to what everyone told me that was good for me, I don't think I would have followed the path where I am now. And these are some sentences that I put up here. Take what you will. If you don't ask, the answer will always be no. Ask for help. If you need help, ask the people that can help you. Marcus and Yuko are here to help you. Make friends. You guys are in an academic situation. Obviously, it's different because everything is remote. But when I was in art school, I was surrounded by like-minded people who were artists. So making friends and exploring things, getting to know what other people are up to, and doing what you love. If you're not loving making art, then maybe this isn't for you, or maybe you have to kind of harness something, an area of it that's causing that irritation for you. And if this wasn't something that I love doing, I wouldn't have pursued it. And be patient. things take time. I am a bad example because it's been a year, but I have been making art my entire life. I also went to an arts high school in Manhattan, and the work has drastically changed, but things take time. Also, everything that I'm showing you right now is not a formula, okay? This is just what has worked for me. This is the chain of events that's led me to here, and learn from failure and leave room for yourself to grow. Because if you're not learning from failure and let it beat you down, you're not growing. You're kind of just accepting that things will continue to get worse. And obviously, we're in a pandemic, so not everything is going to go according to plan, but leave room for yourself to grow. I realize that being an artist, I'm learning about myself every single day. Like, I'm learning more things about my art and also just myself as a person. I realize that the clothes that I wear and the way that my room is decorated is a huge reflection of the things that I love to make. And success is different for everyone. I don't think I think I've made progress, but this is not where it ends. I'm still learning. There is years ahead of me. There's so many things that I'm probably going to do that I don't even know about yet. There's probably so many things that you're going to do that you don't even know about yet. And what is success can be defined by so many different things, and ultimately it depends on what you think is successful for you. Um yeah, you're growing. You guys are graduating, you know. Um it's a scary road ahead of us, but just work with what you have. And if I let all the things that people told me beat me down, I think I would have been doing something different. I don't think I would have even been an illustrator. Um, yeah, and that concludes the presentation. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for sharing your time with me today, and thank you, Marcus and Yuko, for having me here today. I am sweaty and nervous and happy at the same time. I'm very glad that I am a student you have chose to come speak today. And I'm glad that you have believed in the work that I do and trust that my process ended up working and where I am now. And I wouldn't be able to do it without you. I wouldn't have been able to be here without the people that supported me on the internet, my patrons, everyone in my life. And I wouldn't have been here if I hadn't pushed myself to this point too. Here's where you can find me. That concludes the presentation. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now.
Thank you so much. It was fantastic. Marcus was texting me while you were talking. He said like he's about to cry. He was so moved. I'm so moved too. It was fantastic.
Okay, I'm so sorry if we like went overtime. It's like already 7.
No, it's fine.
No.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, like students rather listen to you than to us critiquing their work. So are you okay taking some questions?
Oh, absolutely. I was hoping that the presentation would take up so much time that we like didn't have time to like ask stuff. But I'm open to anything. If anyone wants to say anything or put it in the chat, I'm here. Literally anything. I'm gonna drink water.
So anyone, you know, our students or students from other schools and classes or the Patreon people, like anyone can ask any questions. She's here to help you.
I see someone like raising their hand in the video.
Oh, right. Tinjao. We love Tinjao. She always asks questions. Tinjao, go ahead.
Hi, you mentioned that you should be yourself and listen to yourself. When you were a student, would you listen to Tom Woodruff's advice if he criticized your work, or would you rather be yourself?
I listened to his advice, and I tried to like sort of decrypt what he was saying because it obviously comes out of a place of professional practice and his own experiences. However, that doesn't mean if he's in a position of authority that he's necessarily right, and that's what I realized. And I realized that there are intentions that I had and intentions that he had that kind of like went up neck to neck, and there were certain things where, you know, it's not like I was ignoring what he was saying. I was listening to what he was saying and exactly taking apart what he meant. It's like, you need to be more specific. You need to show instead of tell, and essentially be prepared and be ready. And he was also saying that, you know, I was making a major change. I was making a major change to the location, but the whole point in the end was proving to him that it's possible and that it worked, you know, delivering it, which is very difficult when it comes to, you know, being the artist behind someone else's manuscript or anything or project. You know, you have to follow a guideline. And so I was breaking that guideline, but I had to show to him that it's it was worthy in the end. And that's what it means by like not listening to him. Yeah, and I put up a little bit of a fight, but I was like, I did it. What did I tell you?
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm. Anybody?
I was gonna ask, do you find it like difficult to balance like work and personal life and stuff? Because I find that to be a struggle with me, and I don't have a normal like sleep schedule because of it.
Ooh, I forgot to mention I'm a night owl. So, if someone tells you like you're waking up way too late, like honestly just work within what your body functions. If you have the freedom to, obviously if you're waking up for a 9 a.m. class, you better wake up for the 9 a.m. class. But I wake up at like 9, 10, 11, and then I work until like 1 to 2 a.m. But in the middle, I'll have like chunks of just like doing whatever the hell I want to, or taking a walk outside. I have a really big problem with giving myself more breaks and like sometimes working on the weekends. And I find that I have my family or my partner pulling me to like stop working, like telling me like, let's go and hang out, like let's watch this movie in the living room, stop being in your studio, because it's very difficult. As you can see, I literally live in my studio. Hopefully that'll change when I move, but it's difficult to stop those two things from intermingling, and making sure I'm not getting distracted while I'm working, or when I'm working overworking myself. And it's a thing of, it's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to set rules for yourself. If that means you're going to tell yourself, I'm going to work exactly from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. and give myself a 20-minute break whenever I want to in between, stick to that. And if you realize that you can start disciplining yourself that way, in a way that's not like exhausting yourself, then that's good. And it'll feel good and rewarding when you are giving yourself the time for personal stuff. Yeah. I hope that was helpful. Someone asked in the chat, when you move, are you thinking of having a separate studio in the apartment or having one outside of the apartment to help with that work-life balance? Okay, so just a little bit of my situation right now. I am moving with my partner and my best friend, Emma. So it's going to be 3 bodies in an apartment, and we are all artists. When it comes to money, like, I feel like I am finally able to take a little bit of liberties there. I don't think I will get an external studio yet, because that means not only signing 1 lease, but 2 leases, and figuring out where I'm going to live. And then based on that location, finding a studio that's local to me and one that fits within the criteria that I need. I definitely do need an external studio because I have a small business and I don't want like my living room overrun with like mailers and product. But we are hoping to have like a 2-bedroom and maybe a spacious living room where the workspace is separate, so I can close the door and not have to look at my office, or having a 3-bedroom and utilizing 1 room as our like communal studio, so we can all just like not have that in the living room either. So whatever is in our fate, like exploring those options. And I'm gonna pay money for rent anyways. It might as well be a space that can have those things. And with the pandemic too, I saw that a lot of people were ending up like breaking the lease with their studio because they couldn't go there. So I found that I have no problem like working from home, but I think it would be much easier if I just had a separate room that was my studio, and that's totally fine. Like, this is still my studio. It's just that I wish it wasn't like together.
I have a question related to your online shop.
Yeah.
Do you use print-on-demand websites, or do you just work with like print shops?
I work with like print shops that are as local to me. I know there are print-on-demand websites like InPrint. There's also things like Redbubble. However, like, I found that work can get stolen pretty easily when you send things off to someone else. And it's a lot about doing research and trusting the companies and what they're using. Usually don't have that issue in America, but also there's like prison labor. But going back to what I was saying, if you do not have the time or you don't want to pack orders and like think about all of that messy stuff, you can do it. But the issue with the print on demand stuff is that you get a very small portion of like the profits, and also you don't really have much control there. But with the way that I run my business, I have complete control over who I'm choosing to work with, what products I'm choosing, what materials I'm using, how I'm presenting it, and like adding the personality in it. Like, I write a little thank you note with the name on it when I send it out. And, that emits a very different feeling than having something drop shipped in like a poly mailer, and then that's it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Good morning. Sorry if my English is not really good.
Oh, it's okay.
Not my first language. I think one of the scary things about being a new artist is like going out to the world and getting new jobs, and you don't really know if you're being well paid or not. And I know there's the thing about having agents or people that have knowledge, and I would like to know about your experience about knowing. And I know you talk about this, but if you can talk a little bit more about that, about how do you know if the job you're getting is the right for you, and how do you know if you're being well paid for what you're doing?
Okay, so I don't have an agent, but I have spoken to Aaron, who I mentioned before. He's not like my dedicated agent, but I do go to him if I have questions on pricing. I also go to Yuko and Marcus if I have questions on pricing. But you can definitely look up like what the average rate is for the particular project if you are doing like freelance work and just taking on projects rather than having like an in-house job related in the field, like maybe you're doing graphic design, etc. And the thing is, this can vary from country to country. There are countries that don't pay artists the wage that they're supposed to be getting, and in America, it's a little bit different. So, like in a country, they're like, we can pay you $50 for this cover, or here it could be like 3,000, but maybe in like I don't know England, they're like, we'll pay you 3,000, and the currency also changes. It's you kind of have to poke around and ask, and that's why I have the number on my Patreon public. I'm trying not to get robbed, like I hope no one sees that and they're like, wow, look at her making that much money. And like the thing is, artists really don't make that much money, but having transparency with how much I got paid for certain things. Like if I'm having a one-to-one conversation with someone, I can let them know, hey, this is what I got paid. And maybe, and especially with like gender, women get paid less, women or femmes, like, and like queer folks get paid less. Marginalized folks get paid less because they're like, we live in a society where a lot of those art fields are white and wealthy, and having to navigate that. And I've asked people, I'm like, hey, like if you don't mind me asking, like how much did you get paid for that project, like how much did you get paid for that cover? And I have no issue like letting someone know like how much I got paid. Like that Skull Candy project, I got paid $6,000. It was a lot, for the way they used the artwork. It was could have gotten paid more, but I was like, that's the first thing I'm getting. I'm just gonna take that number. And there's certain areas where you have to kind of consider like, do I want that name of the client there or not? Like, for the BuzzFeed thing, I got paid $200. And I was doing a lot of work. I was filming it too. And I kind of felt like I could have gotten paid way more. I originally was pitched 150 and I bumped it. There is no issue with you asking for more money, because with the BuzzFeed thing where we were settling on a reuse fee, I was like, I have no idea what I should be charging to use something that already exists. And I spoke to Aaron and with Yuko, and we figured like it should be several thousands because Adult Swim is such a huge company. However, we overballed it. We went high. We went high. Okay, but that's okay because you can always bring it back down, and that's the thing. You should always price up. No one's going to turn away. And the thing is, when I'm talking with people, the first thing I ask is budget, because it depends. Are you talking to a very big company, or are you talking to smaller artists, a small company that may not have that much money to pay you on a commercial scale? And so, we asked for 3,000 on the Adult Swim. They're like, we only have $500 to pay you. And Aaron was like, can we do 750? They were like, we can do 750. And it's like, yes, good. Okay, cool. There's just a lot of, it's like a game of ping pong. And also looking at the labor you are putting into something, because I know painting is a physical process. Some people charge by the hour, some people have flat fees, or there's so many other things when you come into like royalties and licensing fees. It depends on what you do, but I would suggest like asking someone that does like similar work in your area and kind of poking around prices. And also if you're from a different country, like figuring out like what is the price range for that. There's also a book called like the Ethical Guideline Guild Handbook. It's a very general, yes, Marcus, thank you. Okay, perfect. It's a book on commercial level work pricing, and what the average prices like the lowest and like the highest people have gotten paid. And that's like an average. It's just an idea of like numbers to look at when you have no one else to ask. And then from there you can sort of work on it. Yeah, that was it's a very packed question to ask, like how to price. There's also another artist that I absolutely love. Let me actually pull up her video. Her name is Anusha Syed, and she's a Pakistani Canadian illustrator. You might have heard me mention her in a video. Let me see. She has an amazing video called How to Price Your Artwork and like how do I get an agent. Okay, I just have the agent video popped up. Let me actually just get her entire channel up on here. Okay. I don't know if Marcus has already beat me to it. Okay, no. Okay, cool. So that is her YouTube channel, and she has amazing informational videos on like things like, do I need to get an agent, or like children's book stuff, because she does children's books, and how to price your art, because she does work at a commercial scale, but she's also done commissions. So that is also another amazing resource that exists on the internet for free. But all of what I told you are things that I actually like learned throughout art school, because I would have had no point of reference when it came to pricing, and I would probably like price things at like $50 for illustration rather than 500 or 6,000. Yeah. Good. Cool. I'm sweaty again. Do we have any other questions?
Hi, I also had a question about like the time management and monetizing art, but in the end, it was answered. So I think that like I wanted to know is that when you monetize all of your, well, not most of your art and like what your work is, how do you balance like what you create for yourself and then you don't really show anyone? Like how do you still keep something personal? And also, you know, because some artists post things on Patreon that are still personal to them. So do you have anything like that for yourself?
Well, I think, you know, there's like illustration work. I'll have to advertise it because that's what I do. So when I'm filming like process videos, like, you know, it's like the thing of like, do not monetize all of your hobbies. And I have kept some hobbies non-monetized. For example, the knitted sock that I just showed, like knitting is one of my hobbies. Or like cooking. Even though I do film myself, like there's some things where I just like turn on the camera and I just forget and just like leave it there. But I don't put a like lens on every single thing, because when you start like making videos, you're like, oh my God, that'll be so cool to film. But there's certain areas where it's like, it's an intimate part of my life. Like I'm not gonna film like every single minute of the day. And there's some moments that I just want to experience with my heart and my brain and my eyeballs. And there maybe I'll take a photo and I'll have it like up as a little photo alongside a different clip. And you don't have to share all the details of your life. Also remember, this is the internet. There are dangerous people out there, you know, like making sure someone doesn't find out where you live. I have to get a PO box. No one threatened me, don't worry. But I just had to get a PO box for the sake of like not sharing my home address publicly. And you know, like what are you going to talk about? Are you going to talk about very deep things about you, or do you want to just skim the surface? That's all you. Like you have 100% control. There's no one like pointing to me and threatening me, telling me you have to say this, you have to do that. And when I'm not feeling well, I state that I'm not feeling well, you know, and people will understand. Like I kind of try to keep a tempo with exactly where we are, catching up, etc. And you know, knowing that I have control over what I share and what I don't. And like if there are breaks that I need, letting people know that I'm like I did a podcast recently on Patreon. I was just like, guys, I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm not gonna lie. You know, it's been a very stressful week. And just letting it be known, you know, if I'm going to take leave, it's kind of like, because these social medias are kind of like part of my job, no one's really like paying me to post things, but it like adds to my availability on the internet, I guess. It's like if you're taking leave, let it be known. You know, if you need a break, let it be known, so people aren't like, where did she go? Did she die? You know, or it's like, is this over? Is it? Is this it? Yeah.
I was gonna ask how, like, I guess what would your main points to like building a following online be? I know you said some of it was an accident, but like, do you have any like key things that you should focus on?
Unfortunately, when it comes to this internet, people will just look at something and debate whether or not they like it or not. Because when people look at something, it's all visuals. They're gonna see your feed, they're gonna look at a TikTok, or like they're gonna maybe sit for like 10 seconds in a video and dictate whether they want their attention to continue or they want to move on. And you really don't want to take any crappy photos. Like you're putting all this effort into your work. Document it really nicely. It doesn't have to be professional. I literally use my phone to take photos most of the time. And just make it presentable. My Instagram isn't like my portfolio, but it's like a portfolio of the things that I've been up to. And sometimes I upload stuff and I'm like, oh my god, this made my feed look so ugly, but it's okay, it's fine, it's not the end of the world. But it's something that I have to consider because when it comes to people also trying to get to know who you are, like having that information in your bio, that's why it's called a bio. Making sure you're accessible. Like I have a link tree, so I have links to more links. So when people are like, I want to learn more, they're not like lost and having to dig. They know exactly where to go, what to see. And if they're looking for something specific, using tags or hashtags, or when they're searching for you, like what do they need to find? And just making work that's cohesive. It's the consistency that matters. If you're making work and then you're posting something else and it looks like someone else did it, like people are going to get a little confused, and that is difficult when you are learning. But maybe you have 2 pages of a sketchbook and you upload 1 page and the other page the next day, or like whatever. Or the whole thing of like art versus content, because art is not content. What surrounds the art, the process of what is surrounding the art, is the content. So maybe you have a painted photo, sorry, not a painted photo, a painting, right? And you're like, wow, these art materials look so cute next to it. And you take a photo of the painting with the materials around it. Cool, you've successfully did that. Maybe you go outside and like you're having a drawing day, like maybe take a photo of that. Like as long as it stays within the same realm and you're not like shooting in different places, or like suddenly there's like a food picture, or like, I don't know, vacation photo, and it doesn't make any sense. Like there are some people that have like their personal lives and like their art intermingled, or what they do. But it really depends on like knowing your audience. I think that's the main thing, knowing your audience, because suddenly that Instagram or like whatever that social media is being shared. It's not only for you, but it's also for other people to get to know who you are on the internet. Yeah. Someone in the chat said, wanted to know you did an excellent job. I noticed that when you transitioned into digital art, your style became less focused on achieving a sense of realism. Was the change a conscious one? Yes. When I was making those oil paintings, I was like, I hate this. I hate having to like cry over every single detail. And then I realized that it was easier for me to start simplifying things and making it like not necessarily loose, but like sort of looking at something from reality and finding what line comes out of my hand, finding what colors come out of my brain. It's basically a translation. And I realized that with realism, it's very static for me. And what I wanted to do was make fun work. And I wanted to emit that feeling of playful, fun, vibrant, fresh, cool, rad, And when I started to move away from that, I was like, this feels more comfortable. I feel better making this type of work because I feel so much tension when it came to making realistic work. And I know some people like that, but it's not for me. I liked it better. I like my style now.
We could take like one more question, see if anyone has any. Otherwise, Brad must be tired speaking for like hour and a half.
Oh my god.
My throat is just dry. I'm just like drinking water every 10 minutes.
So everyone cool?
Burning desire? No?
So then thank you so much, Brad.
Thank
Happy
you.
Ramadan.
Happy Ramadan.
Oh yes, thank you.
Are you practicing Ramadan?
Girl, I just drank water.
Yeah, so I was like,
That's what I was gonna say.
like,
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, but like if the sun hasn't set yet, but
Yeah, like my parents are about to have iftar. I hear them like yelling and cooking. Yeah. They're observing Ramadan, so they are fasting. I used to fast, and then like health complications, I like fainted one day, and my doctor was like, "Girl, you gotta eat," and I was like, "Okay." And then I realized like I was not so religious, and I was like, but I still like sit with my parents to eat iftar, and like we celebrate Eid and whatnot. But no, I'm not fasting. But this will be my last like Ramadan and Eid with my family together, which is a little daunting, but it's going. It is what it is.
Well, thank you so much for all the information
Yeah,
and like,
you're
you know,
incredible.
it was an incredible lecture.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm glad because I was looking at this, I was like, I have 40 slides. I was like, this is gonna be a lot, but I'm gonna hit the vitals.
Yeah, I
And-
personally learned a lot. And there's a
Yeah, I
comment too
learned a
at the
lot
bottom.
too.
You're
Okay, good.
inspiring. I hope you have a great week. From a Patreon person. So
Oh, okay. Yes.
yes.
Thank you for joining. Yeah, they're great. We have a Discord server and it's like so nice. Like it's just a whole different community of like love and like unconditional just support and people getting to know other people. Like I literally made different areas so that they can get to know each other too.
Nice.
And just pouring in resources because the whole point of my Patreon was having a library that you can access. So when you do pledge, you get access to previous content in that tier as well. So I have a whole master list up there of all the places that I get stuff produced, printers that I use, my favorite art shops, things in New York City that I love, materials that I use. And it's like sharing that with someone else doesn't take it away from me. The whole thing of like community over competition. Do I think competition exists? Yes, but I think that the community will create more avenues of artists getting paid more. Like we have bigger fish to fry. Like we already get so marginalized that it's like, why are we going neck and neck? Like me sharing who I use to print doesn't make my artwork less, like it's like now someone else has another area of like finding a place to grow. And that is the whole point of my Patreon, just like having all of that information that is, I do mention it in my vlogs. Like if you're ever curious about what I use, I mention every single thing in my video. And if it's not in that video, it's in another video, but it's all up on Patreon. It's just this like cloud of me just sharing what I'm doing and sharing as much that I can leave to help other people, because I wish that I had that when I was starting this, because I literally had to learn all of these nitty-gritty things because SVA didn't teach it. SVA taught me other things, but it definitely didn't teach me how to market myself through the internet. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's no one
I was
who's
gonna say,
teaching
nobody-
young enough to have gone through that.
Mhm.
So like, like you should like, I mean, like we're not in position to hire anyone. Like we hope you in like next how many years come and teach to the next generation of artists, because there are things Marcus and Moo and I can teach, but we definitely cannot teach what you're doing. You're starting out in a completely different world.
But also, one thing I want to like highlight, it's been said before, I just love your intentionality and how like the space that you're occupying through your work is not something that I feel like was around when I was coming up or when Yuko was coming up. This is really fresh and honest and inspiring. So yeah, I just wish you lots and lots of great things. It's
Thank
like
you.
fantastic. Seriously.
Yeah, as I said, I wouldn't be able to do all these things if I didn't have you guys believe in me and helping me along the way,
Cool.
Much love.
Yes.
Much love.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rad.
Yeah.
And those of you, thank you everyone for coming. And those of you who are our students as well as who are not, it was great. It was a huge audience. There were like 50 people in the audience. So those of you who are in our class, it's like 7:20. Like we take a little bit of break and we meet like when, Marcos? 7:30?
7:35.
7:35. So 7:35 on the the regular class link.
Yes.
And Brad, Julian, everyone, thank you.
Julian,
and
good seeing you.
see you soon. And I'll send you the video.
Okay, thank you. All right.